Hello and welcome to another episode of Bum with a Wrench. I'm your host Daniel, and we're back here on the 68 Camaro. As always, this car is not much, we don't have much left to go to get this thing done. I've put together a list and I'm gonna start checking through that list. The list looks a little bit long, but I mean, looking at it to me, it's really not all that bad in my opinion. But a couple things. I started filming this whole week with a new camera setup and it all went very badly. So I am going to film and produce this episode a little bit different. Hopefully it turns out pretty good. But you're gonna have to bear with me on this episode. I'm gonna be talking through all of it. You know me, I love to talk, so here I am. At least I get to do what I love to do, right? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk through it and then I'm gonna throw some video over top of me talking of when I was actually doing work. There's not enough good video to actually put together a full episode. I did switch camera systems, like I said. I still have my GoPros, but I upgraded to a really nice camera. Spent quite a bit of money on that, and I've been fighting to kind of learn that new style of shooting, so it's been a little bit different. But let's get right into it, and let me show you what I've done already, and then we can talk about what I need to do going forward into next week to kind of finish up some of these projects. Let's get the car down lower, and I'll get you under the hood. Why is that not working? There it goes. Okay, so now that we got the car down at eye level here, we started making the radiator hoses, upper and lower. This is a pretty good process, pretty hard process. It is difficult doing a AN this big, this small. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it is gonna work, at least for now. If I do have any problems with it down the road, I can always change it and go to a more conventional rubber hose setup. But let me get you under the hood. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the auto plumb hooked up. I need to finish tightening this, but that's basically where it's going to sit. Of course, that's going to come over here to this AN over here. Down below, you can see, got the lower radiator hose made and connected. It's not fully connected because I do need to shorten it. I also need to shorten the upper radiator hose that I just showed you. It's a little bit too long. When you're dealing with a hose that is that small in space, the hose itself is really small. The fittings, of course, are very big, though. It doesn't have a lot of flex in it, so you have to be extremely accurate when you make the hoses. So what I did was I got a calculation over here, and so hose distance end to end. So basically that's the distance of the physical hose that I needed from end to end. Not very big, 1.5 inches. And then what I did is I went ahead and made the hose. I cut, so I knew I needed 1.5 inches between the two fittings. So then what I went ahead and did is I think I cut 4 inches of hose, if I remember correctly. And then from that 4 inches of hose, I used a dial caliper to go down the hose. Now I knew the overall length of the hose, So I went down until I hit that fitting, and then I saw how much that hose was actually riding up into that fitting. You need those numbers in order to accurately calculate how long the hose is going to be. That distance is 1 inch. So knowing that I have 1.56 of hose that I need, it goes on to the fitting 1 inch. That one came out to 2.56. Very easy numbers on that one. The upper radiator hose, when I was doing it, I just went through because I already knew what the fitting was. This is what I needed, and so these numbers just filled in very quickly. Again, they're a little bit long because when I made the hose, I didn't want them to be a little bit too short. Too short, and I gotta throw the whole hose away. Too long, all I gotta do is trim it down a little bit. And so if I can find that video and overlap it, you'll see that there's a piece of the hose where I marked it, and then when I cut it, it was about 1/8 of an inch past where I cut it, so it was 1/8 of an inch too long past my measurement mark. Well, now seeing on the car, I need to take roughly about 1/4 off of that to make that fit. So that's where we're at with the radiator hoses. They're almost done. I'm really concentrating on that because I want to get the cooling system on this car completely done. I don't want to have to worry about it anymore. I'm trying to check boxes off one at a time as they come. You'll notice that the Earl's fittings for the steam pipe, those are in. I've got all that laid out real nice. You can see that upper hose, how it comes across. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bracket that connects it right up to that. So it'll sit up next to the fuel rail right there. There shouldn't be any problems with temperature as far as that goes. It should work out pretty well. So that's that. I did remove the hard line. So when I removed the hard line, it was not anything of what I wanted it to be. When you're bending stainless, once it's bent, that's kind of where it's going to stay. You're not really going to be able to adjust it past that. So looking at this, seeing that it really wasn't what I wanted, it was close to what I wanted. It just wasn't laying out in the right place. You know, because it came down the side there and went in the back and then went down the car. As far as setting it up on a dual line system, I just really didn't feel that that line was correct for what I wanted, at least for this application. So I went ahead and just completely removed it from the car. So my plan now is I have one, I think that's 25 feet. Which might do the whole car, but I ordered 2 more spools of that. It's fairly inexpensive off Summit. It's just the Summit brand stainless steel 3/8 fuel line. I'm gonna make my own. They're gonna mirror each other. They'll go right down the frame. One of the things I didn't like about that is that it went down the subframe and then for whatever reason jumped up to the floorboard and then went across the floorboard, which I really didn't like. It was tucked up tight against the floorboard. I just see a lot of chafing happening, rubbing through, unnecessary routing. Really, they should have just followed the same subframe connectors all the way down the car. Anyways, that's my plan. That's what I'm gonna do with that. So that's that. Now, those hoses, they took so long to make, so I'll probably end up throwing a lot of video in here to show you that part. But that's kind of where I'm at with the car. It really, this part is slow and boring. I wish I could make it faster and more fun for you guys, but I just can't. It's been a week now. I haven't released any videos just because of how time consuming it actually is, making something look good, function well, and really be all high end like it is. I did order the intake. I found a Rotofab LS intake that I liked, that I thought would work really good for this. I had plans to make my own intake, but after I saw that, I thought, you know what, it fits the car so nice. it fits the build, it looks right, everything's right, so I went ahead and ordered that. Of course, California being California, I couldn't ship it to me. Luckily, I have buildings in other states, so I shipped it to one of our other buildings, and then they're gonna ship it to me. Why can't I put a intake on a 1968 Chevy Camaro with an LS swap? I don't know. There's no smog on this car, there never was. I took the old carbureted V8 out, and I'm putting a nice fuel efficient LS in. Yeah, it makes a lot of power. Still get better fuel economy than that and burns cleaner than that. So where's the problem there? We live in a broken system. So that's where I'm at with that. Let me get you turned around and show you the list that I got going. So this is the list that I came up with. I tried to just list all of the things that I could see and really kind of recognize right now. You'll notice, you know, on the list, it's, let me get you pointed right. Power steering. I looked that over real quick. It's really not gonna be that hard to do. Exhaust, steering shaft. Now I put numbers by these. The ones, the twos, that kind of stuff, basically it's the priority. So power steering being number 1 priority, exhaust being number 2 priority. Steering shaft is a multi-step, so it's like it's a 2-step priority. Basically, it's find the parts, order them, get them in, make sure they fit. This will drop down to a 1 at that point where I install it onto the car. That's kind of how I put this together to just help me realize, you know, the steps that I need to take. I broke up all of the things that need to happen at the same time. Cutting the bell housing, cut shifter, cut the hole in the floor for the shifter, install the throwout bearing, install fuel lines to tank, and the starter are all things that need to happen kind of at the same time. I'm sorry, not the install the fuel lines. That's not part of it. It's just to cut the bell housing, shifter hole, throwout bearing, and starter. And the reason why the starter is there is because, like every other Chevy on the planet, you have to shim it. So that's the best time to be able to accurately set that shim when I can visually see everything in there and see exactly how it's going to lock onto the flywheel. So those all go together. Those will happen. However, I'm waiting because I don't want to do any of this until I can 100% assure myself that that motor does not have to shift forward or backwards yet. The motor mounts are loose, the trans mounts are loose. That motor can shift forward or back depending on what I need. And really, honestly, that's the main reason why I'm trying to get the cooling lines done, is because if I need to shift the motor back 1/4 of an inch to make those cooling lines fit, I can do that right now. Normally you can't do that with a motor, but if I were to do all of these things, cut the bell housing hole and set that transmission to the bell housing, it's kind of locked in at that point. Yeah, I could go back and recut it, but I don't want to do my job twice. So these are on hold. Mounting the gas pedal, install center console, install Dakota digital gauge, install front seats, and wiring I have put all together into one cluster. Reason being is because I don't want to do any of that on the hoist. I want to do all of that off the hoist because the paint job on this car is really nice and I do not want to open one of the doors into the hoist. So clumped all those together, and those will happen when the car comes off the hoist. Also off the hoist is coil packs, plug wires, cooling fan wiring, and seat belts. All of that's interior stuff other than the cooling fan wiring, but it goes along with the wiring. I really don't want to do the cooling fan wiring until I dig into the harness, because I need to see how that harness is actually going to control the cooling fans. I believe it's through a signal wire, but I haven't looked into that yet. I need to verify how it actually turns the fans on, and I want the computer to do that, because when you turn the AC on and it idles the motor up and it turns the pump on, I want it to turn the fan on as well. So making sure that's hooked up properly through the computer is important, because you want those fans to come on when you turn the AC on. So those things are all kind of in this same cluster. The thermostat I'm waiting on until I can lock down and make sure that that lower hose actually meets the motor in the correct spot. Once that's done, then I'll go ahead and install the thermostat and that lower hose at the same time. The reason there's a 2-by-it is because the thermostat I have in the new housing from Earl's requires the older style rubber gasket that goes around the thermostat. I don't have that. Really simple, easy part to get. I go down to the parts store and pick it up, no big deal. Brake booster. Honestly, I don't really care about the brake booster. I put a 2-by-it because I don't want to use that chrome one, and I really think that chrome one's going to be too big, but it's not necessary for me right now to actually fit that to the car. I need to get the rest of everything else fitted and then make that fit the car. So I can go down to a smaller size booster that's a little bit longer, like the one that's in my Galaxy or that 7-liter, and make that work on this car. Or I can go to that big UFO style chrome one, which I don't really have a problem with the size per se. It's a little bit big and dramatic for me. I would like a little bit smaller one. However, the chrome has got to go. I do not want the chrome. There's already enough shiny bits underneath that hood. I don't need the chrome back there in the corner. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't scuff it up and paint it. Chrome you really can't paint over, I know. But if I scuff it up enough and I put some primer on it and I put some paint on it, it should last for a while. Way to save a little bit of money on this incredibly expensive build. Cooling temperature sensor, I've got a 1-by-it, only because I have the fittings, I have everything done. I just need to lock it all into place and install it into the motor. However, when I was working on the oil pressure sensor, I discovered that those brass fittings that have the washer that goes behind them, they're not strong enough to hold. When you torque it down, you're supposed to get that washer to kind of collapse. Those brass fittings just pull apart and they break. I am fighting this oil pressure sensor. One, trying to just figure out what size the actual thread pitch and everything was on the stock GM filter, which I know now is M16. Everything I was finding online was pointing toward it being an M14. So I was buying a bunch of parts in M14 and nothing worked. And so then I finally did a bunch of research, dug through some forums, found some people referencing it to M16. I found an M16 to 1/8 adapter, actually on Summit, the only place I could find it. And it worked great. However, so I've got the Earl's adapter. Let me grab that for you real quick. So I've got the Earl's adapter that goes on the side of the oil pan. So this is where you would plumb in turbo oiling, an oil cooler, anything like that. Currently right now it's just got a block off plate over it, which is just fine too. However, because of the manifold that I have, the oil pressure sensor is actually supposed to come out from that valley pan in the back. Remember, I changed that to remove this off the back because with the manifold absolute pressure map sensor in the back, the map sensor and this sensor on the back over there would not fit together. So I had to move this. So I moved it down to the side where the oil, basically the oil pump's in the front, it goes down the block, it goes over to the oil filter, and then from there oils the motor. Perfect place to put a little cap on the side right there so that you can go ahead and do all the oiling that you want to do. I love GM for how they think about stuff and how things could actually grow and get a little bit bigger and how you can modify things. Great. So they make this neat little thing right here. So it's just got a, I believe this is, it's a 8th NPT on top. So I got an 8th NPT T. I've got my Dakota Digital oil pressure, and then I've got my GM, stock GM, because that's the connector I have on my harness, stock GM fitting oil pressure sensor. This is the fitting that I was struggling to find. I could not find it. So, oh no, sorry. This is M12. So I needed an M12. Why they don't make this in an 8th, I don't know. But I needed an M12 to 8th NPT adapter. Now this is a straight fitting that has a washer is what seals this. Kind of like the oil pressure sensor, same thing. It's a straight fitting. It's got a crush washer on top. That's what seals it. I found that fitting in brass, but when I went to torque it down, it just split the fitting. Not strong enough. I did find an aluminum one. I'm going to try that, and hopefully that's strong enough. You don't need to torque it down to 50 foot-pounds, but I needed to go down tight enough to seal that O-ring, that crush washer against this, and then so I can mount that. So basically it's gonna sit in the car like this. It's a little goofy looking, sure, but it'll work just fine. And it's down on the side of the motor where you'll never see it. There's plenty of room down there, I already checked. So it'll sit on the oil pan, it'll look like this. The stock GM plug will come into here. The Dakota Digital plug will go into there. Everything will look, work great. Not exactly the most eye-pleasing design, I'll give you that. However, you know, it will work. I was trying to find something that would really streamline this, where it was one fitting coming out, meeting this fitting, that also met this fitting here. Honestly, I couldn't find anything. So this is not too bad. I've seen people do worse with connectors to fittings to reducers to expanders to, you know, you got this big old long snaky looking thing that has a sensor on the end of it. So this thing's not too bad. I really wish Earls would have made this an 1/8. This is 12125, I think, if I remember correctly. And this is M16. So I don't know how they, I don't know. I guess you could use this for other things too, but whatever. Anyway, so that's my problem there. I'm trying to get this done, but also back to the thermostat, the same thing. I have that brass fitting that failed in here. So I'm not even gonna try and put that brass fitting on the cylinder head. I need to find a fitting that's gonna go ahead and give me, hang on one second. So this is the fitting here. And so this is what I'm talking about. So you have your Dakota Digital temperature sender, right? 1/8 MPT. This is the fitting that I was talking about that failed over there. Basically it's 1/8 MPT to 12125, right? M12. This one's not marked, but I'm pretty sure it is M12. So it's got a little shoulder there on it, and you put the washer like that. Thread it in, tighten it down. You don't have to crush this, but you got to get it down to where they mate. There's no sense in putting any Teflon tape on here. That's going to do you nothing. It's straight cut. It all seals with that. It's just like your drain pan, your oil plug and your drain pan, right? Or your drain plug on your oil pan. Oh man, one of those days, you know. It's got to seal against that washer right there. I'm not even gonna try and put this in the head. After seeing what it did to the Earls filter, Earls adapter for the oil pressure, I'm not gonna get this locked up inside my cylinder head. Not doing that. So I need to find another one of these fittings. I'm trying to find stainless. Stainless is gonna be nice and tight. It's not gonna have any problems. It is a dissimilar metal with aluminum. However, you know, I really don't see it really having much any problems. If it did, you know, you could always just take it out, heat it up, take it out, and then just replace both of these items at the same time. So these are the things that really take the most time on these builds. Putting the manifold on, torquing it down, putting the top on it, that's so easy. I can, you know, a half hour, that's done. However, it's these little things that really take the time. I'm not gonna tighten the motor mounts until I know the motor's in the right space. This is almost done. This is almost done. Steering shaft. I actually ordered the steering shaft parts for this today. I got a couple different options as far as Heim joints go, because I'm not sure exactly how I want it to look. And then the universal joint to, the part I don't like is it's universal joint to universal joint with a small shaft between the two universal joints. I hope there's no binding there. I just really don't know what that's going to be like. I need to look, I need to pay a little bit more attention to that and seeing if there's another way I can do it. I mean, if I mess it up, then it's just buy a new steering shaft. It's not that hard. It's not anything specific. It's not expensive, easy to get. You could cut up another one and make something work. However, I don't like destroying parts, so I like to think it through before I go just cutting. Although you did see me on the windage tray and the oil pan, so there's that. So a lot of these things just take a little bit of time. The exhaust, I'm really not concerned about at this point. We're a ways off of the exhaust. The exhaust is pretty much going to go into the car last before the wiring's done. Before that car comes off the hoist, the exhaust is going to get done. I've got a lot of stuff in between there, you know. It's a lot of little things, like the dipstick. I still want to shorten that so that the thing's down. Again, that's all about aesthetics, how it actually looks. Has no form or function. It's just purely about how it looks. I want to get that stick down. But it's something I got to do. Cooling temperature sensor, you know, this has got a little bit of work. This is not, but the list really is not all that bad. I did cheat a little bit and I just put wiring. Now that is such a broad category and it's going to be extremely involved when I get to that point. Like I was telling you guys, I have plans to disassemble the entire harness. And so when we get there, believe me, that is not something for a newcomer to wiring to even try to attempt. And when we get to that point, I'll walk you through it and show you how I'm going to do it in case you guys want to try and do it at home. It's easy to get messed up. Now, I was looking online. You can buy Amazon wiring harnesses for LS motors, about 160 bucks. So if you mess up, you can always buy another one. Now, that's a name brand harness. It is really nice. I'm sure that's a lot more than just 160 bucks, but I'm not worried. I'm not going to mess it up. So this is where we're at. This is where I've gotten to as far as this car goes this week. It's been slow going. I do apologize for this video. I'm gonna try and make it a little bit more fun by adding in little clips here and there. Hopefully, you know, we can see some of those clips. So I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, but this is where I'm at. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging this week, and plus I really didn't want to blow past these headaches and these things that I've been struggling with on this car, because if you are following the build, which I hope you are, it's such a fun build. These are the parts that you really need to pay the most attention to. They're the most boring to watch, but this is what's going to get you at home. This is what's going to get you in your driveway when you're trying to do that LS swap. Now maybe the AN lines from the radiator to the engine are not going to affect you because you're just not dumb like me and go ahead and go that route. But in case you are like me and you do go that route, expect these headaches. Honestly, I really thought that what I was going to do was cut the radiator apart. I wanted to move those fittings to the other side of the radiator. I was going to cut the tanks off of them, weld them back on the opposite side, and then run the lines that way. The only reason I didn't do that is because the $750, $800 intake that I just bought, the cold air intake, runs on that side. So I thought, well, you know, I guess I can't do that now. But if this AN fittings don't work, I can always convert it back to rubber hose fairly inexpensive and quickly. So, but I don't really see any problem with it not working. Those are small polyurethane bushings that are on the motor. That motor's not going to move anywhere. It will move a little bit, but it's not going to move enough to break the water necks or anything else like that. So I'm not worried about it. So going forward into next week, I'm really just going to tackle some of the ones that are marked with ones. Charging AC, I can't do anything about that. That's going to be basically the dead last thing before we actually take it out and drive it. Well, we may drive it before we do that. But to finish up the first segment of this car, what I'm calling phase one, that will be the finish line, charging the AC. Because at that point, you're just going to take the car out and enjoy it. So, but I can handle some of these ones while I can put a one by this one. That one always kind of gets lost. I should do like a little, so I don't forget that it's not, you know, clumped into these other parts. You know, when I was writing it, I wasn't paying attention and it got lost between this other stuff. Anyways, you know, I can finish up some of these ones and get that done. Really, this one is the one I need to focus on the most right now. It's going to be very time consuming to get both of those fuel lines routed down the side of the frame. I also purchased a couple variations of fuel filters because I don't have a fuel filter on this car. So I did a really nice canister filter. Remember, this is fuel injection, so you have to do everything for fuel injection. It's all high pressure. So I bought a really nice canister system. I would love to use it on this car. I'm just not sure if I can fit it. I'm going to try. But if I can't, what I did was I bought a barrel style. So at the back where it comes out of the fuel line and then goes into a soft line into the tank, I'll split it in there and then put that. It's a nice big AN fittings, aluminum bodied, replaceable filter. I believe that one was fiberglass, actually. Fiberglass filters, 6 micron. So that I got that to work on still. Again, not a hard thing to do. It's not on the list here, but I can just kind of clump it in with this. So next week, I'm gonna hit hard on that one. I know I've been telling you guys a lot about that. It's been weeks since I told you, oh, I'm gonna make this line, and then of course it's still sitting there. But I'm at that point. So this is what we're gonna do. Let me give you one last look here at the car. And then, so remember, all this is done. All that back there is done. All this is done. Radiator is just about ready to be finished. Heater hoses are done. I can't remember if that's part of this episode or not, or if that was the last episode. Heater hoses are done. I did change those fittings from stainless to, or from brass to stainless, and hooked the lines up. I remade all my AC lines. I think that was part of the last episode though. So all that's done on the car. There's really not a lot. Power steering, I need to concentrate on that one. It is going to take a little bit of time to make those lines that go from power steering pump to the gear, but not a lot of time. That one's really tight, especially when I'm coming out of this fitting right here and going over. That one's going to take a little bit of effort to make sure that clears right. I believe those are -6. Not 100% on that, but if I remember correctly, those were -6. So yeah, that's where we're at. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna end this episode here. I know it's just been me talking. I hope I can overlay some of me working. But I really do apologize for this episode. I hope you guys understand, you know, new camera equipment, that kind of stuff. I'm really trying to improve on my channel, improve on my recording technique. You'll notice there's a GoPro up here. So what I was attempting to do was run my new Sony with 2 other GoPros so that you're getting multiple angles, you're getting multiple ways, and I was doing a lot more work. But somehow between the new Sony video card and this video card, the files got lost. I tried to find them, I can't find them. So anyways, enough of me talking. Let me let you guys go so you can go to bed or eat lunch or eat dinner or go back to work or doing whatever you're doing. But just know, I am still working on the car. I'm trying to get it done. I am also behind the scenes doing a lot of work on the 7-liter. That one's a lot like this car. It's finding the right parts. So I'm trying to find those right rivets so I can rivet that AC box back together so I can get that car going back together. So expect to see an episode on that car here pretty soon. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I apologize for the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy this car, this build. I haven't really been updating on TikTok if you've been following me on there, just because of the camera situation. But now that I've got everything kind of organized and back on track, we're going to make some good content. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so, like and subscribe. And until next time.